Okay, for the second subtopic, which is 1.2, we will have the frequency distributions and graph. So in this subtopic, you will learn how can you construct the table or the frequency distributions from the data that you have, and how can you present the data in the graph form. The first type of frequency distribution we call as the categorical frequency distribution or categorical table. So the first type here is related to the qualitative data, which you have the data not in numerical value. So whenever you have the question from your project, which is fall under qualitative, you must construct this categorical frequency distribution. Look at this example. We have the question of new antibiotics. This is the names of the antibiotics recently stocked at the local pharmacy. Construct a frequency distribution for the data. What percentage of the antibiotics are gemifloxacin? So you have to construct the table first. Let's say this is your raw data. How many raw data that you have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So total is 50 raw data. So among these 50, you have several types of antibiotics. So the first column will be the types of antibiotics, which is you have D, G, T, C, and F. And then the second column is the frequency. So just count how many D among all these raw data. So if you count, you have 14 types of D antibiotics. And then for G, how many? For T, C, F also you have to count. And then make sure total of everything will be equal to the total number of raw data or total number of respondent. Okay, and then the question asks what percentage of the antibiotics are G. So G here is 15. So how to find the percentage? 15 over by 50 times 100%. So your answer will be 30%. So this is the first type of table that you have to construct if you have the qualitative question from the project. Second type we call as the ungroup frequency distribution. This one is for the quantitative data, but you have the small range of data. Small range means, let's say you have the data from the lowest is 2 up until 10. From 2 up until 10 is considered as small range of data. For example, look at this one, example number 2. The following data represent the length of service of 14 nurses in the government hospital who are eligible for promotion. Construct an ungroup frequency distribution. So this one you have 40 raw data. The lowest is 5. The highest is 12. So from 5 to 12 considered as a small range of data. So you have to construct the second type of frequency distribution. So the first one, when the years of service is 5 years. So how many nurses having this 5 years of service? And then continue with 6, 7 up until 12. Okay, this is the example of the ungroup frequency distribution. Meaning that you have the single digit of data only, not in the interval form. Okay, we move to the third one, which is the group frequency distribution. So whenever you have the group frequency distribution, this one considered as the wide range of data or the big range of data. For example, let's say you have the data of the lowest is 10 up until 100. So 10 up until 100 is considered the big range of data. So for that type of question, how you can construct the table, you have to follow this guideline. Okay, so the first one, determine the number of classes. This is usually between 5 and 20. So for your project, how can you construct the table? Make sure Number of classes is from 5 up until 20. It depends on how big your range is. And then how to calculate the range? Largest value minus by the smallest value. And then you calculate the class width, which is using this formula, range over by number of class. And then always rounding up. Let's say, for example, if you divide range by number of class, you have 10.1. And then always round up to 11. Okay, always rounding up, not rounding off, rounding up. Okay, that is the first step. So by having this example in your book, example number 4, we are going to follow the guidelines. So this is your row data. You have total number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 55 row data in this case. Okay, you have 55 row data in total. So the first step in the guidelines just now, you have to find the range first, which is largest minus by the smallest value. So in this case, the largest is 70 and the smallest is 27. So just minus these two number. So you have 70 minus 27, which is equal to 43. Okay? And then second, you have to find the class width, which is range over by number of class. So your range just now is 43. Divide by the number of class. Question mentioned, construct 7 equal classes. So 43 divided by 7. So your answer will be 6 point something. Okay, 6.13. So always rounding up to 7. Make sure always rounding up the number here if you have the decimal value. Okay. So the class interval is the first column and the second column is the frequency. So how to fill in all this value? Okay, look at the guideline just now. The second one, pick a suitable starting point less than or equal to the minimum value. Minimum value is referring to the lowest value just now. This is the same minimum value and the smallest value. So your minimum value just now is 27. So your starting point in the first column, you can start with 27 or less than 27. Okay, you can start with 26 or 25. So that is your option that you have. And then determine the upper limit of the first class and the class boundary. So that is your second guidelines. So proceed with this example. So our smallest value is 27. So let's start with 27. For example, we start with the 27. And then if you add on 27 with the class width, which is 7, 27 plus 7 is 34. So 34 is your lower limit of the second class, which is here. Lower limit of the second class. And then 34 plus another 7, which is your class width just now, you get 41. So 41 is the lower limit of the third class. Okay, the lower limit of the third class. So fill in all the lower limit first until you get 7 equal classes. So 41 plus another 7, 48 plus another 7, 55 plus another 7, 62, and the last one is 69. Okay, so settle all the lower limit of all the classes. And then it's time for you to fill in the upper limit. Okay, so all these value from 27, example for the first class, from 27 up until what value? So what is the unknown value here? You just minus 1 unit with the lower limit of the next class. which is 34 minus 1 unit, you have 33. So that is the lower limit, that is the upper limit of the first class. And then, what is the value here? 41 minus by 1 unit, so you have 40. The next one, 48 minus 1 is 47. This is 54, 61, 68. Okay, the last one is what? The last one, you just add on with 6, which is just minus 1 unit. So 69 plus another 6, you have 75. Okay, so how many classes that you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then make sure the lowest value, which is 27, is within the first class. Okay, 27 is in the first class. And the largest value, which is 70, is in your last class. You have to make sure this one. Okay, so make sure all the row data here fall within the 7 equal classes only. And then how to fill in the frequency column? Just count how many row data fall between this range, 27 up until 33. So just count how many, then you just fill in the value. So for example, the first one is 7, the second one is 13, and so on. So just find all the value. And then make sure total will be equal to 55 raw data. So this is what you are going to do for your project when you have the big range of data. Okay? So hopefully clear how to construct the table. The second one is how can you present your data? So you have two types of data. The first one is qualitative, which is the antibiotics just now. You can present your data in the bar chart. This is the bar chart for the antibiotics. So the y-axis will be your frequency. Or another option, you can have the pie chart also. So if pie chart, you display the percentage for each of the antibiotics types. Okay, and then for your project, after you present bar chart or pie chart, after that, you have to explain something based on the chart that you show. For example, we usually referring to the largest and the lowest. For example, okay, 30% is the largest chosen antibiotics. Why? Give your opinion. The least is 8%. Why? Students choose. This one is the least. So you just give your own opinion in the analysis part on describing the data. If you have the quantitative data, this is related to discrete. Quantitative, you have two types, discrete and also continuous. So if you have discrete data, you can have the bar chart. Discrete is data which have the small range of data. So you can display the data in the bar chart form. So this is all the values. For example, number of school-going children. So 0 up until 5. And then this is your frequency. And then you explain something based on the chart. Second is when you have continuous. This is usually the big range of data. So you have three types of graph, which is the things that you have done in your homework last week. The first one is histogram. This is the example of the question that we construct the table just now. 27 up until 69. You have 7 equal classes. If you want to display the histogram, make sure you add on the class boundaries column. How to find the class boundaries? Lower class boundaries, lower limit, which is 27 minus by 0.5. And then upper boundaries, upper limit 33 plus another 0.5. So that's how you find the class boundaries, which is the lower class limit minus 0.5, upper class limit plus another 0.5. Okay, so this is the example of the histogram, which is your x-axis will be the class boundaries. Make sure the x-axis here, you display the class boundaries for each classes. And then the y-axis is your frequency. If you want to display the frequency polygon for your project, make sure you add on this column, which is the midpoint column. What is midpoint? Middle value. How to find the middle value? Lower limit plus upper limit divided by 2. Or lower boundaries plus upper boundaries divided by 2. You have the same number, same value. So make sure you have the correct x-axis, which is the class midpoint. And then the y will be your frequency. The last one is the octave. So the octave, you have to add on the class boundaries column and also the cumulative frequency column. What is cumulative frequency column? You just add on all the rows. 7. The next number is 7 plus 13, which is 20. The next row is 20 plus another 15, which is 35. And then up until the last one is equal to the total data that you have. Make sure the first number here, 26.5, is equal to the lower class boundary of the first class. And then the last number here, 75.5, is equal to the upper class boundary of the last class. So make sure you have the correct graph for your homework. Okay, so for your project, it's up to you whether you want to choose which type of graph that suit your raw data. Okay, so that's all for the second subtopic. Thank you.